watch that new show on Netflix, but this is the melody they should have been singing during that candle lighting scene. No, you haven't seen it yet? None of you, huh? Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Yom HaKippurim. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la la.
As we light the candles, we welcome in our holiday of Yom Kippur as well as our holiday of Shabbat. We hold both of those and we bring in all that much more enthusiasm and focus. So we build up with prayer and we remember that not only is this the sacred day, the day in which we say our words of Kol Nidre, but it also is Shabbat. So we gather with enthusiasm and love.
Sometimes I lose my way, I stumble and fall. I fail to see the open door and only see a wall. Sometimes I close my ears when open they should be. But then I stop and listen to that still small voice inside of me. Pitchuli. Sharet Tzedek Avovam Odeya Pitchuli Sharet Tzedek Avovam Odeya. May I see my life in the work of your hands and walk in love and freedom to the promised land. And when I lose my way, I pray that I may see that spark inside the darkness and the gates open for me. Peacefully. Sharet Tzedek Avovam Odeya Pitchuli Sharet Tzedek Avovam Odeya Pitchuli Sharet Tzedek Avovam
Shabbat Shalom. Gamar Chatima Tova. That one's a little harder, I know, right? Yasher Koach to all of you. You fought the urge to find out what's happening in a baseball game. Some of you are like, no, we don't. We found out now. That's okay. We'll apologize for that next. We have made it to this night, our Kol Nidre service, this pinnacle piece of our tradition, marked so specifically that we even do things odd or differently. We wear our tzitzit. We put on talit, and yet we don't read Torah. We take out Torah, and yet we don't use it in its traditional way. This is a service that said from the very beginning of our tradition, if you think you know how we do things, we're going to do it differently. We're going to change it up. We're going to make sure you're not entirely comfortable, that you're on your toes, because that is part of how we make sure this process will stick. Enter Kol Nidre, a prayer that is, again in the Aramaic, something that only happens in spaces in which we really want to make sure that the people know what they're saying. The phrase literally translates to all vows, but it serves as an annulment of all of the promises that will be made if using God's name. Why? When our world today says don't say use God's name in vain, it's really actually a ripple effect of this moment. That our tradition says you might break a promise. You're human. You make mistakes. That's okay. Don't bring God into it. Because God, according to our rabbis, is actually this safeguard moment that we know we're going to flaw, but we should have something that we can hold on to. Now, this also becomes problematic because the words of Kol Nidre literally mean, I'm going to break my promises. The rabbis get a little bit worried about this, especially right around the Middle Ages, when they realize as translation of our tradition becomes more common, I think the people who hate us might use this to hate us more. And the rabbis suggested we remove it. We have a couple things like that this year. We think, will this thing that we do, will it set off other people? Do we have to over-explain? And yet here is a brilliant moment from the people. When the rabbis say, let's get rid of Kol Nidre, the Jews pushed back. They said, don't touch Kol Nidre. Kol Nidre resonates to us. It matters. It's powerful. And the rabbi said, it's problematic. It's going to get us in trouble. It's often misunderstood. And the Jews said back, don't touch Kol Nidre. We've always had the authority. We've always, as a people, been able to say, this is what resonates with our tradition. This is what's powerful. This is what I find meaningful. Ask yourself through this service and beyond, are you speaking up for the things that you care about, or are you just kind of following what someone else has said? Might be easier. Might be less conflict. But we've already done this. We've already pushed back on the rabbis. We've already said, sorry, that's not going to work for us. So as we go through our Kol Nidre, as we say 3 iterations to make sure that anyone who had to use the bathroom or check the score heard all the words, anyone who was a little bit late and said they couldn't find parking made it for a full version, they've literally been thinking about this for countless amounts of years. Make sure the Jews heard the words. Make sure they could say them. That is our communal responsibility. Let's go back to the talit. We are going to invite families up. They already know who they are. Don't worry, don't feel pressure. We're going to have 9 sets of families come forward, and they're going to have a chance to hold Torah during this vow. That's the way we use this sacred tool tonight, to simply make sure that we're in the presence of the words that we've committed to when we make a commitment to other words. So I'm going to ask quite a few people to come forward. If you can do me a favor and line up on each side, there is tape on the ground. I know this feels like the backstage talk, but it's important here. And we're going to have them move in a space to make sure we have space for everyone here. So I'm going to ask first if Miriam and Justin and Shirley, as well as Joni and Andrew, can come forward to help us open the ark. When the ark is open, I ask everyone to rise. And if I can have the following families of Torah holders come forward. Mia, Benji, and Jonah come forward. Edie and Nick come forward. Nancy and Michael come forward. Sari, Matt, and Alana come forward. Dara, Brandon, and Mark, I believe, are the three we have tonight, come forward. Beth and Stuart and Judah. All right, Judah's off the hook. Rachel and Hank. Losing where everyone is in here, okay. Melanie and Lyle, and any Greens who are here, bring them all up. And Alana and Klaus.
Kol Nidre Ve'asare Charame Koname Ve'kinuse Ve'chinuye Ushavu Kol Nidre Vesare Vecharame Vekoname Vechinuye Vekinuse Ushavuot Ude ish devana Ude acharimna V'dia sarna Al naf shatana Miyom Kippurim ze ad Yom Kippurim haba ad Yom Kippurim haba Aleinu Letova Kol Icharalon Letova Kol Shiviti Betelinum Vutalin Lo Shirin Velo Kayamin Nidrana Lo Nidre Ve'esarana lo esare Ushavuatana lo Shavuot.
All solemn vows, all promises of abstinence and formulas of prohibition, declarations of austerity and oaths which bear the name of God, and pledges to ourself assumed on penalty, whatever we might have sworn and then forgotten, whatever earnest, well-intentioned vows we might have taken up but not upheld, whatever punishment or harm we might unwittingly have called down on ourselves, from the last day of atonement to this day of atonement. May the day come upon us all for good. From all of them, we now request release.
בשרי וחרמי וקונמי וכינויי וכינוסי ושהות דין דרנה ודאיש תבנה מיום כיפורים זה עד יום כיפורים הבא שוויקין שוויתין בטיילין ומבוטלין לא שרירין ולא קיימין ואסרנה לשרי ושבועתנה לשבועות
You may be seated. Yasher Koach to all of those who came to hold our sacred text in this moment of vow. We turn on page 696. The last line, the blessing of Shechechianu. I know many of you feel like we have just sat through a whole service, but that was the beginning. And now we say these words of Shechechianu that we had the chance once again as a people to reach a moment to say these words that would allow us to safeguard us to recognize our humanity in this experience. On page 696, Shechechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of this universe, who's given us life, who has sustained us and allowed us to reach moments that bring us pause, moments that bring us awe, moments that we feel closer to the divine. And together we say, Amen. We turn on page 708 as we begin our service with the words of Baruch Hu. I know it was quick. Please rise. Seated. On page 712, we find the words of Ahavat Olam.
You all know this one, sing along. Ki chema hayenu ve'orech yameinu uvehem negei yomam v'layla negei yomam v'layla ve'ahavatcha tasir mimenu le'olami Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael ohev
On page 714, you will find the words of our Shema, words that are, according to our tradition, something you say twice a day, every day, without fail. Not High Holy Day liturgy, every day liturgy. And there's something about Yom Kippur, the power in this space is palpable. You feel you walked into a different moment being here tonight. And then we say these blessings that are specific to this night, to this day of tomorrow as well, that bring us back thousands of years in our tradition. And then, brilliantly, the rabbis say, keep the regular prayers too. Say the same ones that you're going to say next Tuesday, or 4 months from now, or right when you wake up in the morning, like the Shema. Because you deserve to be able to figure out how does it resonate differently in this moment. And if we don't play with both of those truths, the things that are special and set out and the things that are for every day, then how do we really know that it feels different, that it feels elevated? I often ask that this is the space where we take a pause. Close your eyes for just a second. Take a deep breath in. The words of the Shema ask us to listen. Something that we learn over time is very difficult to do if you don't stop talking. So you have to pause. You have to breathe. You have to stop. Which then begs the question, what are we listening for? And there's actually a hint right in our prayer book. The prayer we just finished, Ahavat Olam, this love of the world, this grand love of the world in God. The prayer we will say next, Ve'ahavta, and you will love. You want to know what we're supposed to hear during the Shema? This is our tradition, making sure you don't miss the message. Love. Be willing to accept the love that this world has to give. Be ready to give the love that this world needs. And if you need to pause and take a breath, do it. But your job is love. Sometimes I forgot that this last year. It got hard. But your job is love. So let's close our eyes one more time. Take that deep breath in. Just as we heard those words of love, we prepare to speak the words of love as well. The words of the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod, Shem Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed.
You with the words of Ve'ahavta, just as you sung those words, the Shema, so too now do we all deserve to hear exactly how we're expected to love.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך.
Page 728. מי כמוך.
מי כמוך בעלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר וקודש, נורות תהילות אוסף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים. זלי אנו ואמרו, אדוני למלוך לעולם עבוד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, ברך הוא וברך שמו, גאל ישראל. Every night I try to sing 3 Hashkivenus to my son Rafa. He's 22 months old. He's in the ECC at KI, which is so sweet for me. I've been teaching at KI for so many years, since 2009, working with so many KI children. And like our ancestors Sarah and Hannah, I had a long route to conceiving my own child. So being able to stand in this space as a KI parent feels miraculous. Sometimes I look at Rafa and I think it's so incredible that he exists. We made him in a lab, and he's a real human being now, running around this sanctuary wreaking havoc while I try to rehearse with Michael and Makala.
That part's totally true.
That was 2 days ago. What a world. And so every night I sing him this dark lullaby of ours, Hashkivenu. It asks the divine to lay us down to sleep in peace and to raise us again in life the next morning. And I sing it to him partially because I'm superstitious and, you know, it can't hurt. But also partially because it contains this line that I love. It asks the divine, spread over us your shelter of peace. And that's what I want for Rafa. I want him to feel the shelter of God's peace as he goes about his life, whatever that looks like for him. For me, I feel the shelter of God's peace when I hear my mentor, our cantor, Chaim Frankel, sing the words of our liturgy. So I hope singing Dani Maseng's Hashkivenu with me tonight fills you with that sense of peace. This setting is usually the first one I go to at night when I'm getting Rafa ready for bed. It's both a reminder of our fragility and a comfort. Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu, Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Leshalom, Leshalom, Hashkivenu, Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Leshalom. V'hamideinu malkeinu lechaim, Uleshalom, Uleshalom. Hashkivenu, Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Leshalom. Ufros aleinu Sukat shlomecha, Hashkivenu, Vayavos aleinu Sukkot shlomecha aleinu Sukkot shlomecha Hashkiveinu Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom.
Shakoch. On page 782. Ya'aleh means may it ascend or let it rise. It's a piyut, it's a poem that reflects this heartfelt plea for prayer to reach God and be favorable, and expresses our collective yearning for forgiveness and a sincere return to a righteous living. It centers on themes and appeals for the divine mercy and compassion and repentance, and it underscores the importance of sincere atonement, of meaning what you say. And in the communal aspect that we sing it together in this space, it reinforces this notion of unity, that it's in our atonement, in our ability to be vulnerable and admit our flaw, that we're actually able to come closest to being a congregation, a people united. Page 782, the words, Ya'aleh.
Ya'aleh Yisheinu Me'erev Ve'avot horeinu Miboker Ve'yirah Chinuneinu Ad Arev Ya'aleh zichroneinu Me'erev Ve'avodeinu miboker Ve'yirah hadrateinu Ad Arev Chinuneinu Me'erev Ve'avodeinu miboker Ya'aleh Ya'aleh En Kodeinu Me'erev Ve'ya'avo Elecha Miboker Ve'yirah Eleinu Ad I have the pleasure of calling upon Sherry Citric Field to come and sing Adonai Sfatai with me. I feel very lucky to have inherited Sherry from Julie Silver, and I'm grateful that she's continuing the tradition of lending her voice to this service on Kol Nidre. Our Amidah begins with Adonai Sfatai, a prayer to help us pray. A prayer asking that when we open up our mouths, what falls from our lips should be words of blessing and beauty. Adonai Sfatai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Yehilatecha Yehilu Leratzon
Please rise. We invite you to take a moment of silent reflection. Take in what we have gathered tonight. Take in the reflection and pause. Then don't sit when you're done. I know that's different. We'll continue together, but first we take a moment of silent prayer.
Shema Kolenu, hear our voice. This plea feels particularly poignant at this elevated moment, and especially so this year, when many of us have felt that our prayers for peace and for safety and for life have fallen on deaf ears. My personal theology is not one that includes an interventionist God who picks and chooses whose prayers are answered. I believe it's our responsibility to do God's work in the world and to make peace. But I also experience moments of transcendence where I feel tapped into something greater than myself, some energy that I call upon to strengthen me to do that work. I especially feel that when I hear the voices of my congregation rising together in song, in prayer. I've even felt that many times at the end of a yoga class, when having moved our bodies together mindfully, we chant an Om. I think there's something especially sacred about music, about sound. It doesn't even have to be melodic. And what I love about this setting of Shema Kolenu, which was commissioned by Cantor Frankel, is that in it I hear a reminder that we do not have to shout for our voice to be heard by the divine. We can use that still small voice inside of us and still communicate our longings and our desires. This piece was composed by Ami Aloni at the end of his life when he was very ill. And I hear in it that yearning, that pleading. Please, Holy One, source of life, hear our voice. Do not abandon us even when our strength wanes. Return us to you, and we will return. Shema Kolenu.
Page 814.
Shema Kolenu, Shema. Shema Kolenu, Shema, Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, Chus v'rachem, Chus v'rachem, Chus v'rachem aleinu, v'kabel berachamim, berachamim uveratzon et tefilatenu. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Hashivenu Adonai Elecha. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Hashivenu v'nashuva. Hashivenu v'nashuva. Chadesh yameinu kekedem. Tashlicheinu milfanecha, v'ruach kodshecha al tikach mimenu. Al tashlicheinu, v'ruach kodshecha al tikach mimenu. Al tashlicheinu la'et zikna. Al tashlicheinu la'et zikna. Al tashlicheinu la'et zikna. Kichlot kocheinu al ta'azvenu. Shema Kolenu, Shema, Shema Kolenu, Shema, Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, Chus v'rachem, Chus v'rachem, Chus v'rachem aleinu.
You may be seated. Now is the part where I talk and you Google the score. We have a marketing problem. I know what you're thinking, and we're not talking about that, Israel, yet. We have a branding issue that has eclipsed the integrity of perspective with our faith. Judaism is not ancient. It is certainly not a relic of ancient past. And before you think I've lost it, consider, is the ocean ancient? It holds ancient treasure and stories, but the ocean's alive, living and breathing isn't ancient. Something truly ancient lived and died in the past. Judaism isn't ancient because we continuously infuse it with new life. Now, while some wisdom is ancient, so we build upon it. We've evolved. We no longer sacrifice pigeons for good luck, or rely on all showing up to the same centralized temple in the Middle East. The rabbis bravely, completely recraft it with rabbinic Judaism to help our faith survive the temple's destruction and our ultimate setting forth into diaspora. Our Judaism today grows and changes with us. It stands on the foundations laid by our ancestors, but we are not tied to 2,000 years ago wisdom alone. Judaism ensures that we breathe life into it, building upon what became before it. Judaism isn't a relic. It's a deeply rooted tree that still flourishes and blossoms. Ancient implies interest only in history, but that's not our tradition. We study the history to know its potential, to respect its roots, but Judaism is alive. Throughout our tradition, even when reading the ancient words of Torah, the rabbis warn us against seeing it as ancient. We breathe life into Torah. As readers, we renew the words in our lives. The reader changes. The words remain the same. We are the co-creators in our tradition because we control how we engage the sacred words. Let us be the co-creators of our living story. The book that we repeat over and over again, 79,000 words. How long is that? It's the length of the first Harry Potter book. No, I'm not talking the Order of the Phoenix or some other crazy long book. I'm talking Sorcerer's Stone, the first one, the one that we're like, this is manageable. Could you imagine breaking the first Harry Potter book into 50 some odd chapters and reading it weekly over and over and over and over again? Why would you do that? Why would you waste our readers' precious time with words that don't change? By the third, fourth, fifth iteration, you'd know everything there was to know about it. The reason is that our text is only half written. We write in the rest each year, each breath, each experience. Unlike a static story, the Torah offers new insight with each reading because the reader brings their evolving experience to it. Our tradition empowers the reader as co-creator. And when we study that Torah, we breathe life in. The text doesn't give more details than needed. It offers only what we seek. And yet today, we often let our Judaism be reduced to sound bites and cliches, into what we think someone else wants us to know, into what Google tells us Judaism says. Let us be the co-creators of this living story. Think about Harry Potter again. Would you all have imagined that Harry Potter looked different if the cover hadn't ruined it? Do you think Daniel Radcliffe would have had the job if the cover didn't have a Daniel Radcliffe lookalike right there the first time you saw it? Even a mere book cover took away part of the authentic experience of co-creating the story. We see our tradition go through this during the time of Enlightenment, a crucial first step in the creation and flourishment of what would later be liberal Judaism. And quite honestly, this gives a different understanding to the warnings against idolatry as well. If someone predetermines your interpretation of God, they so deeply rob you of the experience of interpreting the divine. We all have the ability to reflect on what we think the divine resonates as. If we gave a visual to God, we would take so much of this collaboration away. away from the potential and more. So Eugene Borowitz, who's a leading figure during this liberal Jewish thought, says during the time of enlightenment, the same freedom that to give up their Jewishness also made it possible for Jews to choose consciously to be Jewish. Being Jewish now became a matter of personal decision about how one wants to live their life. What began as a fact of birth becomes an act of existential self-determination. To really understand the power and embrace our role as co-creator, I want to tell you a story about a little boy named Kane Monroe from East Los Angeles. At 9 years old, Kane spent his summer vacation building an elaborate arcade out of cardboard boxes, all in his father's auto body shop. He used imagination and ingenuity. He crafted games. He had prize systems, even a designed security feature with like calculators and all kinds of things just in case of vandalism. And despite having no customers, Kane showed up every day with enthusiasm. And in October of 21, a filmmaker, Nirvan Mullick, discovered Kane's arcade and became his first customer. Moved by his creativity, he organized a surprise flash mob to visit the arcade and document the experience. His film went viral, inspiring a global movement of Kane's arcade, creating from boxes. You go down to our school, and in room 12, there is a closet with a bungee cord and more cardboard than you know what to do with. Kane's story led to the creation of the Imagination Foundation, promoting creativity in children worldwide, and sparked in the initiative of Global Cardboard Challenge. His story exemplifies how each of us holds the potential to be the co-creator in our own lives and communities. Just as Kane infused ordinary materials with new life, we must too breathe the vitality into our tradition. Our heritage cannot simply reside in ancient words and historical recollection. It must be living, a dynamic force that we engage with. Kane didn't wait for others to provide entertainment or purpose. He actively created it for himself. Our faith, much like Kane's brilliant arcade, is not a static relic of the past, but a living tradition that flourishes when we engage with it wholeheartedly. We are not mere spectators. We are active participants, shaping our experience and understanding Judaism with every choice we make. Let us be the co-creators of our living Jewish story. And the rabbis contemplate the essence of this idea with wordplay of Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim shel lamala, the Jerusalem of above. Yerushalayim shel lamata, the Jerusalem of below. The Jerusalem above represents our aspirations, our hopes, our dreams, our ideals, our holiness, our unity that we can hold in our hearts. It's the vision of Jerusalem, and by extension, our faith can be at its highest potential. And below is the physical city, its stones worn by time, its streets filled with the footsteps of people from all walks of life, embodying the complexities and challenges of reality. Famous poet Yehuda Amichai captures this beautifully in his poem, The Tourist. Once I sat on the steps by the gate of David's tower. I placed my 2 heavy baskets at my side. A group of tourists were standing around, and their guide and I became their target marker. You see that man with the baskets? Just right over his head, there's an arch from the Roman period. Just right over his head. But he's moving, they said. And I say to myself, redemption will come only if the guide tells them, you see that arch from the Roman period? It's not important. But next to it, left down a bit, there sits a man who bought fruit and vegetables to feed his family. This poem poignantly illustrates how we often fixate on the ancient, missing the living people who embody the spirit of the land today. The tourists are so focused on capturing perfect images of these arches, they overlook the man, the life that's right in front of them to learn from. Amichai reminds us that true redemption, true understanding, comes when we recognize and value the present over the historical. Amichai reminds us the true essence of Jerusalem, and by extension, our faith, is found not just in the ancient stones, but in the lives of those who inhabit it today, the spirit of Am Yisrael, the people, the innovation, the culture, the daily realities that make Israel a vibrant today. This moment is pivotal in our society. Our relationship with Israel is constant. It evolves and grows and deepens. And as this happens, as it thrives and lives, we have to keep our bearings with it. This is not just a repetition of old stories. This is a new story. This moment in time that so many of us find ourselves in, yearning for the safety of our homeland, worried about what's going on around the world. This is a new story. For the first time in 2,000 years, we have a sovereign homeland. We speak Hebrew not just in prayer, but in everyday conversations. We have a place where Jewish culture, law, and life is organically interwoven into the fabric of society. And as diasporic Jews, we have not had this experience before. Having something as precious as a homeland to cherish and protect, a piece of our heart physically and firmly set in a place, even as we continue to live out our lives in the diaspora. We have not had this experience in time. We have not watched footage of violence and horror that in other contexts would have been universally condemned, only to see the horror of justification without pause. This is a new chapter in our story, one that is being written as we speak. Do not relinquish your authority in writing that chapter. You are the co-creator. We all add our voices to the narrative. We must find our voice and cultivate our relationship with our homeland, recognizing that we have a role in bringing Yerushalayim shel Lamala to Lamata. This means not only celebrating the spiritual and historical significance, but also actively participating in its present and future. We contribute to a vibrant, dynamic Israel that reflects the values we hold dear. We are part of a relationship that is so powerfully connecting us across this world. We are the ones who breathe life into this tradition. Let us be the co-creators, the co-authors of this living story. We find ourselves at a pivotal moment in society where Israel is increasingly misunderstood and often unjustly vilified. Not always, but I want to make clear, misunderstood and at times unjustly judged. The complexities of the reality are frequently overshadowed by the oversimplification of narratives. Yet Israel is not just a distant land or an abstract concept. It's a vibrant, living nation, a breathing, heart-pounding love with beats. It's a place where ancient history meets modern innovation, where our story of ancient intertwines with the lives of today. We must find our voice in our relationship with our homeland, embracing responsibility that comes with it, even if it's more than we asked for. And I know for so many of you, it is more than you asked for in this last year. By actively engaging, by bearing your heart, by allowing those to know that you love and support and care. It is not just a relic, it's an integral part of our living tradition. And just as we are co-creators in our faith, we are also co-creators in Israel's ongoing story. This is not a chapter we can afford to skip or leave unwritten. In our thousands of years, we've not had this part of the experience. So let us embrace the new story, adding our voices to the narrative. Together, we can confront the misunderstandings, illuminate the multifaceted realities of a complex state, and reinforce that Judaism is alive and dynamic and profoundly relevant. When we shy away from our potential, forget our sacred relationship with the divine, we begin to lean backwards, focusing on what was, and neglecting to be nimble and malleable and accessible in modern moments. Let us rid ourselves of viewing Judaism as a source of guilt. We don't need guilt or shame to connect us. Throw away that ridiculous cliche. that we somehow hold on to with pride of, oh, Jewish guilt. Take a breath and hear me again. Judaism is not a weight on your shoulders. To believe that is to dismiss the strength and power of 3,000 years of vibrant living. Judaism is a foundation, a platform, a lens, a container, a mechanism to see and experience this world. We have to pay that respect to our tradition, knowing that we are experiencing life through Judaism and that doing that keeps it breathing. You don't need to be guilted or shamed into this truth. It's far too incredible to be reduced to that relationship. It's a collective celebration that we are all tethered together with. And remember, that journey isn't meant to be walked alone. We are a community, a collective Yisrael, and together we can support and uplift one another. Engage in our communal worship, participate in our traditions, share your experiences with others. And by doing that, we strengthen our individual faith and fortify the bonds that hold us together as a people. We are the vibrancy of our Jewish tradition. And if you don't know how to contribute to that, we're here for you. But you have to then be ready to be the co-creator. You have to be ready to keep the light of our tradition shining brightly. It's on this night that we believe that God opens the book of life and inscribes our name. But what if that too is our opportunity to be the co-creator? That we also author this book of life. We don't just let things happen to us. We always take the creative, explorative, discoverable lens to inscribe our name in a book well lived. As we stand at this pivotal moment, let us embrace Judaism not as a relic of the past, but as a living, breathing tradition that thrives through our active participation. We are the co-creators, empowered to infuse our heritage with a vitality and a relevance. By engaging wholeheartedly, by bringing our unique voices and energies, we ensure that our faith remains vibrant and meaningful in this world. I invite each of you to step into that role with courage and creativity. Together, let us write the next chapter of our living Jewish story. On page 820, we turn to prayers you've been waiting for. The prayers that give us permission to recognize our flaws and couch them beautifully in the we instead of the I. So brilliant our tradition does that. We're going to rise on page 820 for the words of our confessional, beginning with our Ashamnu. All of these transgressions are said in the plural because all of us make some of these mistakes. But if we are going to embrace our role in breathing life into our tradition, it's also about our ability to take ownership for the behaviors of our entire community. As we say these words, as we recognize our flaws, as we beat our chest, I want you to recognize that saying some of the words that you might say definitely wasn't me. Unfortunately, in this world we're in, there have been the actions of those in our own community that cause us embarrassment, that cause us frustration, and that could cause us shame. Our job is to be responsible for the heart of this entire community. And owning this is part of how we do that.
Ashamanu, Bagadanu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi. Yai dai 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 dai, ya da dai 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 dai, ya da da והירשנו, זעדנו, חמסנו, טפלנו שקר. איי 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 די די, ידה דה די די די, ידה דה די די די. יעצנו רע, כיזבנו, לעצנו, מרדנו, ניעצנו, שררנו, אבינו, פשענו, שררנו, כישינו עורף, איי 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 רשענו, שיחתנו, תיעבנו, טעינו, תיתנו, די 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 די, ידה דה די די די, ידה דה די די די.
On page 828, we find ourselves at the words of Al-Chet, Shatanu Lefanecha, and Va'al Kulam. This is considered the longer confessional of the two. The one where we go into slightly more detail. Instead of talking in big concepts, we get into a little bit more of our detail. So what we're going to do is we are going to read together in the English. And when we come to the break each time, we will sing the words of Al Kulam. So on page 827, we join together. For the wrong that we have done before you in the closing of our heart, and for the wrong that we have done before you without knowing what to do, for the wrong that we have done before you, whether open or concealed, and for the wrong that we have done before you knowingly and by deceit, for the wrong that we have done before you through the prompting of the heart, and for the wrong that we have done before you through the influence of others, for the wrong that we have done before you, whether by intention or mistake, and for the wrong that we have done before you by the hand of violence, for the wrong that we have done before you through our foolishness of speech, and for the wrong that we have done before you through evil inclination.
Please forgive us, pardon us, help us atone.
We sing together. For the wrong that we have done before you in the palming of a bribe, and for the wrong that we have done before you by expressions of contempt, for the wrong that we have done before you through misuse of food and drink, and for the wrong that we have done before you by our avarice and greed, for the wrong that we have done before you through offensive gaze, and for the wrong that we have done before you through our condescending glance.
For all of them, God of forgiveness, please forgive us, pardon us, help us atone.
We sing together.
They all Eloha Selichot Selah סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו.
For the wrong that we have done before you by our quickness to oppose, and for the wrong that we have done before you by deception of a friend, for the wrong that we have done before you by unwillingness to change, and for the wrong that we have done before you by our running to embrace an evil act, for the wrong that we have done before you by our groundless hatred, and for the wrong that we have done before you in the giving of false pledge. And for them all,
God of forgiveness,
please forgive us, pardon us, and help us atone. Turn to page 460. Promise we won't keep going backwards. Don't get too nervous. For the words of Avinu Malkeinu.
Here's some chatter. 460.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha, Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol aleinu, ve'alol aleinu, v'tapeinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kale David, V'cherev v'ra'av, me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kale Kol Tsar, Umasti.
You may be seated. Except for you, Ken, you're coming down to do announcements. Figured you've heard enough of my voice, so someone else will tell you all the fun things going on. It's my pleasure to invite Board of Trustees Ken Ehrlich to give us some announcements for tomorrow and going forward.
Gomer Tov. Tomorrow, October 12th, please join us for Yom Kippur. The building opens at 9 a.m. The doors open at 9:40. Both services, sanctuary and social hall, will begin at 10 o'clock. The sanctuary fills. Attendees may watch the live stream in the sanctuary service from the chapel or join the multi-generational service in the social hall. At 12:30 at the Coliseum is USC hosting Penn State, but we can't, it's Yom Kippur, we can't go to that. This year, our family service will be on Yom Kippur Day. Join us at the sanctuary at 2 p.m. on Saturday, October 12th. Mincha begins at 4 o'clock, and at 4:30 this year, our special program is Voices from Israel, a collection of music and writing from the last year curated by KI Clergy Yiskor, KI Clergy, period. There should be a period, there's a comma there. Yiskor is at 5:15 and Nila at 5:45. Food drive. Go on the food drive website and order food. The 24th annual food drive is happening now and will run until October 25th. Last year, our contributions provided over 344,785 pounds of food to the West Side Food Bank, which provided over 275,000 meals. We are only at 30% of our goal. Every time this thing, the percentage goes down, just to get you to give more. We're only at 30%. We have 2 weeks to make this our best effort yet. Together, we can work together to reach our goal so we can beat our goal. Each $25 contribution buys 125 pounds of food equal to 100 meals. To contribute, you can go to rki.org//food drive. The Sukkah Bash, RSVP today for the KI Sukkah Bash, Sunday, October 20th at 5:30 p.m. An evening of lulav shaking, celebrating hors d'oeuvres, wine, and dessert, kid-friendly games, arts, and crafts. For all the high holidays information, visit rki.org/HHD Shana Tova. Sunday, the Dodgers will be hosting the Mets.
Yasher koach. Every year we think, who's not going to go off script? And we don't do a good job of choosing. In a moment, we're going to move into our space of Kaddish. For a few reasons. First, this is again Yom Kippur, and also it begins Shabbat for us. But also because, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes what the tradition says doesn't mean it's what the people will accept. Just as the rabbis said it's time to get rid of Kol Nidre, and the Jews said no. The rabbis say on Kol Nidre, you don't need Kaddish. And the Jews said, yes, we do. There's a really powerful message in that. It's that same message, the thread of this entire evening. We get the right to make the statement of what we need. So we turn to Kaddish. If you are in this room right now and have suffered loss in the last 30 days, I invite you to rise. Please remain standing. If you have lost a loved one in the last 11 months, I invite you to rise. If those of you who have lost someone in the last 30 days can please share their name aloud. For those of you who are standing and have lost someone in this last year, I invite you to share their name aloud. If this Shabbat serves as the yearly yurtzeit for the loss of a loved one, I invite you to stand at this time. Please share their name aloud. If as you stand on this evening, hearing the sacred words of Kol Nidre, gathering as community ready to do the hard work of peeling open our hearts with vulnerability to be a better version of us, if that inspires you to remember the teaching and love of one who is loved and has now left this earth, I invite you to stand and share their name at this time. It is our custom to rise as a community on page 1032. These words are about us celebrating this world around us channeling the names of those we've loved, allowing their memory to be a true blessing, a blessing that we have the honor to write. We read these words together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach le'olam ulamei amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpra'ar v'yitreman v'yitnaseh, v'yitradar v'yitchalel v'yitchalal shemei kudsha brechu. Le'ela le'ela mikol birchatav v'shiratav tushbechatav v'nechematav tamid ram be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemayev chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mramav huya asei shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony above make peace for all of us, for all of Israel, for all who inhabit this earth. And together we say, Amen. You may be seated. Now, Kol Nidre is supposed to begin a sacred 26-hour run of Yom Kippur. As I called Rabbi Amy this afternoon to say Gamar Chatima Tova, to wish her and Cantor Frankel energy and strength and love as they begin their service, she said to me, it is a long 26 hours that somehow feels worth it every year. It's interesting that we have the opportunity to be in a space where we feel vulnerable, susceptible to pain and fear, and do it together, and show up and do it again. This actually is the beginning of Kol Nidre service. The words that we're going to sing at the end here are going to be the same words that we bring in tomorrow morning. Hopefully it just sticks in your head the whole night through. Now, because Matt Ross is in the room, I must say, speaking of Rafa and him taking naps here, if you're in Mitzvah Circle and want to just snooze downstairs, we've got pads for the preschool. They're not super comfortable, but it's just one long service, right? We're going to sing these words together. And then after we are finished singing, the music will continue to play. Feel free to find your way out of this holy space while the music continues to play. So tomorrow when you come back in and that music is still playing, we'll continue our sacred prayer.
Michael will be here all night playing the music.
גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם הוא גשר צר, כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם הוא גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם הוא גשר צר, כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, כל העולם הוא גשר this very narrow bridge, I will not be afraid, knowing you are with me. As I walk along this very narrow bridge, I will not fear, knowing you
העיקר, והעיקר.
לא לפחד, כל העולם כולו גשת צר מאוד, כל העולם הוא גשת צר, כל העולם כולו גשת צר